We got down in the NBA, 562, Philadelphia 76ers -9, 566, Chicago Bulls plus the 5, and then 568, the Phoenix Suns plus the 4.5 and 4. Then in college basketball, from top to bottom, 609, Eastern Michigan plus the 6, 611, Central Michigan plus the 7, 624, Mississippi State plus the 2, 632, Miami, Florida, money line and -1.5. 633, Southeastern Missouri State plus the 5.5. 642, St. Louis on the money line and +1. 680, Kansas -16.5. 654, Texas plus 4.5. 661, Pitt plus 5.5. 665, Air Force plus 15. And the only total, last game more or less on the board, Northwestern Oregon under 142.5 and 142. So that's everything up until about 12:30 p.m. Eastern that we bet in the NBA and college basketball. As I said, I think I've released so far NBA play and 4% college basketball play already, and still going to dig into it. It's very early.
Kentucky is coming off that blowout win against South Carolina, but that's a South Carolina team that's dead last in the SEC standings right now, so I wouldn't get too carried away with that. Tennessee will be playing with revenge tonight, and that's a huge factor for me when handicapping this game. That's stemming from a 78-73 home loss to Kentucky a couple weeks ago. But since then, the Volunteers have gone 3-0 with quality wins over Oklahoma, Missouri, and Florida. Those three teams, by the way, a combined 54-17 record. So they played very well since being upset by Kentucky at home. They're coming off a 70-52 win at Oklahoma in their previous game, in which they shot 60% from the floor. And this is a Tennessee team that's gone 6-0 straight up this year after shooting 50% or better in their previous game, winning by over 25 points per game. Prez, you mentioned it. They're I got 2-3 in their last 5, and also that includes a 10-point home loss to Arkansas, who's just 3-7 in SEC play. I don't see Kentucky beating Tennessee twice in the regular season, and I am going to lay the small number with Tennessee against Kentucky, Prez. You have to read between the lines from my perspective, with no pun intended. I mean, you mentioned how hot Purdue is, 11-1 in their last 12, including winning their last 4. On top of that, they already faced Michigan at home this year, and they annihilated them 91-64. Yet the odds makers have this game as a virtual even game, as Prez alluded to. Michigan, like Prez touched upon, 4-0 in their last 4, but all 4 of those wins by 4 points or less. But you know what? They're not going to get rattled in a close game, which I think this one is going to be tonight. They know how to win in those circumstances. They've proven that over that 4-game win streak. And a final note, this is a Michigan team that's a perfect 11-0 at home this season, Prez. I am going to play Michigan on the money line at either -120 or -125, whatever you can get. But again, Prez makes a good point. It's always a good idea when you point spread this low and you're laying it with the favorite to use the reasonably sized money line price instead of the point spread. Creighton's one of the hottest teams in the country, and UConn is sort of so-so right now. I mean, they're coming off a 68-62 home loss to a very good St. John's team, but the Huskies are just 4-4 in their last 8 games. As Prez just touched upon, Creighton are red hot 9-0 in their last 9, and including that 68-63 win at UConn. It's not tough. It's, not easy to win at UConn by any stretch of the imagination. And, in that game, they held UConn to just 5 free throw attempts. So Creighton very disciplined on the defensive end. And that's no fluke, because they're number 1 in the nation right now in free throw attempts allowed. So you have to earn it against Creighton. And they're coming off a 10-point home win against Marquette. And they're now 6-0 in conference home games this year, Prez, winning by 12 points per game. I'm going to take the red-hot Creighton Blue Jays over a UConn team that's a little bit underachieving right now.
Let me give you out a free college basketball bet for tonight, and this is an actual client play. It is Murray State. They are -1.5, and like we spoke about a little earlier in the show, anytime you get a basketball play at -2 or less, please take them on the money line. You can find Murray State at -135. And let me just get into this straight off the bat. This is a revenge game for Murray State. They just lost to this very team in overtime in their last meeting, 97-93. How about that? Yet the total in this game is only 146.5. Now, I don't have the total. I like Murray State here, coming off of a win, 74-56 against Val. Look, here's the bottom line. They get them in their building, and they're playing great defense right now. Murray State is holding their last two teams to under 60 points. So we have it in Murray State's building. They're playing outstanding defense. They have a great revenge setup in play, and the line is a pick 'em. Take them on the money line. Murray State is the play. And look, if you guys, I know there might be a couple of 2.5s out there. I have no problem if you bet this game up to 3. So I like it on the money line, but I also like it all the way up to 3. Take Murray State.
Yeah, this one is interesting. I feel like with the line so low, they're almost begging you to take Florida. And I really don't like to be on the sides where they're begging you to, where I feel like they're begging you to take it. But I still do think Florida is the much better team here. A couple ways I'm looking at this game. You have Elijah Martin coming back. He's their second leading scorer, so that should only help. They're coming off back-to-back games with 20-plus assists, so they've been playing good offensively. And taking down a team like Auburn, that should give them a lot of confidence. A lot of people look at it as a letdown, but after they already just lost to Tennessee recently, I think they're motivated to continue winning. I like the first half in this game. Florida's 19-4 ATS in the first half. I think they come out and throw the first punch, and the big advantage for them is on the boards. Like, regardless if they make their shots, their first shot or not, they're number 4 offensive rated team, or offensive rebounding team, and they're going up against Mississippi State, who is number 211 defensive rebounds. They only have, I think, guys that are 6'7", and they're going up against a couple guys who are 6'10" and 6'11". So big advantage for the Gators down there. And I just think that the Gators are a much better team. They're a better three-point shooting team, and I like them in the first half. I'm sorry I don't have the line for you guys, but I like them to be up in the first half.
I mean, Indiana, off of a loss against the Lakers, but other than that, they've won 7 of their last 10 games. I think there might be some value on Indiana here. I'm curious where you're going.
Well, I think Miles Turner is a big question mark for that team. They would definitely need to have him out there, especially versus Karl Anthony Towns. So if he's not out there, the Pacers are in big trouble. And regardless, if he is in, I think the Knicks will be really motivated after the big loss that they just had versus Celtics. I think they lost by close to 30 points. And the couple games that I've seen them rested, playing after losing as an underdog, they've covered both times. One of those times was against the Pacers earlier in the season. They beat them 123-98. This is a team that they know they can beat, a team I think they're better than. The only thing I don't like is OG Anunoby is probably not going to play in this game, and I think he's a big piece. But it's Knicks or pass for me. And as far as the total, I would agree with the market moving it up. I mean, I'm still not sure it's high enough. You look at Pacers games, for one, as a home dog, they're 5-0 to the over. But like I said, you're missing defense with OG Anunoby. Both teams will be. I mean, the Pacers will pace them up, and the Knicks will be okay playing up tempo. So, over or Knicks are the ways to play this game for me. I agree with your assessment. I mean, they're clearly sellers at the deadline. They even wanted to get rid of Vucevic if they could have. So they're not really trying to win right now. I agree with that 100%. And I agree with your assessment that the Pistons kind of changing culture a little bit. And I think Cade is the right person to do it with. So I think it's interesting, for one, that the Bulls have the rest advantage here. The Bulls are at home, and the Pistons are still a 5-point favorite. I think that's pretty telling of where these teams are, what direction they're heading in. So I would agree that the Pistons can win this one by margin. But more than that, like I mentioned, it's just the one guy I really trust more than anybody else, is Cade Cunningham. I pretty much rock with his PRA, anything under 43. So that's the way I'm looking at this. Either Pistons or Cade props over.
Yeah, Beasley's been on fire. Over 3.5 3-pointers. And normally on 3-pointers, Perez, I do not like playing numbers this big. I like trying to just hit the over 1.5 3-pointers. But I can't ignore these trends. He's gone over an 8 out of 10. He's taking 10 attempts per game, and he's making 5 of them in the last 10. He's shooting 41.7% from threes, and he gets the dream matchup against the Chicago Bulls. Prez, there are some teams that have just given up on defense. Like, defense is completely optional, and Chicago is one of them. They've given up 127.5 points per game in their last 4 games. So it's a skeleton crew. The tank is in for Chicago. So there's going to be a few teams that are just playing horrific defense that you're going to want to focus on some overs on opponents, and the Bulls are absolutely one of them. So, yeah, let's take Malik Beasley over 3.5 3-pointers. Let's talk Ketlen, Souza, and Angela Hill. It's earlier in the week, but I noticed the line started to move towards Souza, and that's why I like to win. She was even money. Now she's down to minus 110. So I think people are seeing what I'm seeing. Angela Hill's 40 years old, and she's had a pretty nice, I don't want to say resurgence, but she's looked pretty good. Back to back, she beat Gomez and Pinheiro. And then she took on a step up in competition, Tabitha Ricci, and Tabitha Ricci was way too much for her. And I think Souza's going to do the same thing. Ricci has this insane pace and cardio, and she's sloppy with her punching. Souza's not quite as fast, but her striking is pretty good. She had a really impressive finish against Wargi. And Prez, I'm fading these older fighters. This has been a theme for the last year. Some of these well-known fighters that we've watched for a long time, they're getting up there in age. And over the last year, I've just been blindly fading these fighters that get up to 40 or look like they're done. And Angela Hill, I think it's about time for her to slow down and start focusing on her announcing career. She's very good about that. She's looked good in her last couple fights. But Souza's the younger fighter. Her power, quickness, energy, I think she's going to have the advantage. Close fight, but I'm going to take Souza before this line moves anymore. All right, we're going to go Kyle Busch, and we're going to take a future on him under 1.5 wins this season. Those of you that watch NASCAR know Kyle Busch did not have any wins last year. He's on a bad team. And now what's happening is he's really pissed off. He's openly throwing fits during the race. He's mad all the time. He hates his car. He hates his team. He hates his life. He probably hates his lunch that he had today, actually. There's just way too many better cars and drivers that are younger, more motivated, and have better backing than Kyle Busch. I don't think he's going to win a race this year, let alone 2. So I will gladly lay minus 140 and take Kyle Busch to not win 2 races this year. It's a super specific play, but there are some juiced parlay pieces that if you guys are looking for parlay pieces, throw these in. Swiatek at the WTA Doha tournament, take her to win 2-0 over Noskova. I have an insane stat. Swiatek's won this tournament 3 years in a row. She hasn't lost a set since 2022. And this is only minus 215. It's actually bettable on its own, but minus 215, someone that hasn't lost a set in 3 years, that's amazing. Real Madrid just to score a goal against Man City later today. And then we'll get into darts a little bit more in the darts video, but you can take Luke Littler money line over Rob Cross. Rob Cross is he got a win last week, but it did not look that impressive, and Littler lost in the first round. So this is going to be a revenge spot for Littler. That's a really good parlay piece for everybody.